Hello you! Welcome to the first episode of Art School Productions. Today I'm going to talk about the 13 colonies, also known as Colonial America. I will split it up into 3 sections: the New England Colonies, the Middle Colonies, and the Southern Colonies. I will be starting with the New England Colonies, made up of Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Connecticut, and Rhode Island. The New England colonists mostly came for religious freedom, notably the Puritans, also known as the Pilgrims, but today I'll be calling them the Puritans to avoid any confusion. The Puritans came to the colony of Massachusetts to evade the religious persecution they faced in mainland England. The most famous cities were Plymouth, where they had Thanksgiving and made peace with the natives, and Salem, where they did the Salem witch trials. Fun fact about the Salem witch trials is that nobody was actually burned at the stake. Most were imprisoned. Another notable colony is Rhode Island, which was made by a man named Roger Williams. Roger Williams, who was banished from Salem and fled from Massachusetts because the Puritans didn't agree with him and declared he was spreading diverse, new, and dangerous opinions. Because of this, he made the colony of Rhode Island. Rhode Island was a religiously free colony. Roger Williams was a separatist who believed that you can believe whatever religion you please. He also believed that religion should be separated from the government. Because these colonies were up north, they had to adapt to the environment and find a way to make a living. In the New England colonies, there was a colder climate causing longer winters. There was rocky and less fertile soil, allowing only small farms for self-use or small families' use. Despite this downside, there were other ways to gain money and food. New England has a lot of forests, causing a big lumber market. Also, because of this wood, they were able to build ships. New England also has oceans, so there were tons of fish and whales, which were great for whaling and fishing. These markets proved so prolific, they started designating cities like Boston as harbor cities. Because of this, many in the area became sailors, fishermen, and merchants. They also carried sugar from the West Indies back to New England, which turned into rum. The rum was carried from New England to Africa, where it was traded for slaves. However, the slave trade wasn't as rampant and severe as it was in other parts of colonial America. The Middle Colonies, located in between New England and the Southern Colonies, were made up of New York, New Jersey, Delaware, and Pennsylvania. Because of where they were located, they didn't have as bad of winters as New England, and their summers were longer than New England. Because of their location and the geography of the location, they had tons of forests, and they also had really good fertile soil. Because of these uncleared forests, many colonists came for the lumbering industry, so they could sell a lot of lumber and get a lot of money. And whenever they were done cutting down the forests, because of the soil they had, it was perfect for small farms, and they soon became known as the breadbasket. It was there that wheat, oats, barley, and rye were often grown. In fact, because of how much bread they had, they probably ate bread every meal of the day. Keep in mind that this isn't like the Walmart or Kroger bread. where it could last like a month. This was like the good bread, where it'd last like a day or two, then it'd get moldy. So they had to eat it. Also, there was a lot of religious freedom in the area. For example, in Pennsylvania, it was made by William Penn, who was a Quaker, and was part of the Quaker religion. And he actually made the Quaker religion, actually. And in his colony, Pennsylvania, he also had free education for all citizens. It didn't matter what religion. You could believe that the sun was the god, and no one would care. And also, the reason why I say it has more religious freedom than the New England colonies is because while the New England colonies in Rhode Island, you could believe whatever you want, in Massachusetts, you had to be a Puritan and follow the rules. So it's kind of like you'd rather have all colonies have religious freedom rather than most. So that's why it has more religious freedom, technically. Also, it had a bunch of religious diversity because of this religious freedom. The main groups were Anglicans from the Church of England, and Protestants, and Jews and Catholics. That's really all I have to say about the Middle Colonies, as we go on next to the Southern Colonies. The Southern Colonies, made up of Virginia, Maryland, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia, had the warmest climate of all of Colonial America. The land was flat and the soil was perfect for growing cash crops, such as cotton, rice, tobacco, and indigo. Indigo is a blue dye used to color fabrics. Southern forests provided lumber, tar, and resin. Resin provided some of the best shipbuilding materials in the world. Southerners developed plantations along major waterways. Each plantation was a large-scale farm or agricultural operation, which housed 20 or more enslaved people who worked on cash crops for shipment to England in exchange for manufactured goods. The plantation system began in Virginia and spread to other parts of the colonies accessible by water. The crops were very labor-intensive, and a successful harbor depended on the enslaved peoples. And they were working from sunrise to sunset all day long. Women usually worked the same hours as men. Women were expected to return to the fields only about hours after they just gave birth. The infant mortality rate was high, let alone the mortality rate, which was also high among enslaved people. And enslaved women were encouraged to have lots of children, so if someone died, they could easily replace them with a child slave, which was just terrible. Other people who weren't as rich often farmed their own land on a smaller scale, which probably didn't include enslaved people. The whole economy depended on these cash crops, which were making them a lot of money. Plantations were at least over 20 acres, and if they needed more workers, they just enslaved more people, which is terrible. And most of the enslaved were beaten and forced to work. Maryland became a haven for England Catholics as an escape. And the Southern Colonies continued the slave treatment up until the end of the Civil War, which, thank God, it ended. And that's all I have for today. Hope I see you guys next episode. What game should I play next? And see you later.